for the pig cake, here's some of the items that you'll need. I use a pre-prepared fondant. I actually prefer this Shape in a Maze fondant that comes in the natural color. I don't really know what the natural is a natural of, but I find that it's more of a color that I think a pig actually looks like. But if you can't get this color, you could also use the Wilton light pink color, and as you can see, the colors are pretty different. Most people probably use the light pink for the pig, but I just prefer this color instead. And then I'll use an almond extract because I think that this pre-prepared fondant straight out of the bag tastes pretty horrible. Sometimes I use peppermint, but I prefer almond. Bamboo skewer. I'll just use one bamboo skewer. So I use the pointed tip and the flat tip, and that's how I'm going to do all of the shaping. A little bit of water and cotton swab, so that I'll get the cotton swab wet, and this will act as the glue when I need to attach things such as the ears or the nose. And then in case it gets too sticky when I work the dough, I have a little bit of cornstarch here so that it doesn't stick to my hands. And then a secret for making sure the dough doesn't crack is a little bit of vegetable shortening. So I'll also use that in just a tiny bit of amount into my hand, because I'm making this for a state fair, and that means it's going to be sitting out for a couple of weeks, and this fondant will surely crack over that amount of time. So I'm going to go ahead and add a tiny bit of vegetable shortening to make sure that it doesn't crack. Now I cut up the fondant into smaller pieces. Try to work with smaller pieces so that it's easier just to soften. And then when you're not using it, go ahead and store it back in the bag and seal it up. And that'll protect it from getting cracked up before you want it to. So just work it with your hands. Have patience with it. The heat of your hands will soften up the fondant, and then it will become pretty soft like Play-Doh. And then once you get to that stage, you can mold it. But just work it like this until you get it much softer. I've worked it into a ball, and it's very soft to the touch now. As you can see, I've worked it with my hands, and it's pretty easy to work with at this point. You want to make sure that you work with it until it is nice and warm, and when you pinch it, if it cracks easily at the seams, then you know you need to keep going. I'm kind of just spreading it out so you can see. You don't want it to be doing this, but if when you work on it like this, it stays smooth, then you've got it nice and warm. And I'm going to keep working it a little bit, and I'll add a tiny bit of the vegetable shortening to my hands, to my clean hands. I guess I should have said that to begin with. And I'll work it in, and then I'm going to roll it into a tube so that I've got something to work with. And I have it rolled out already. I used the cutting board to make sure it was even. And now it's going to be a delicate balance of using cornstarch and hopefully no more shortening. I've already added the extract, the almond extract, and it smells amazing in here, but it got a little sticky when I did that, so now I'll just use cornstarch on my hands, try to cut down on some of the slipperiness of the shortening that I had to add, and I'm ready to go ahead and start forming it. And so here we go. assemble the pig cake, the things that you'll need for the final steps are your chocolate ganache and a cake spreader or a knife. I have to work fast because my ganache is starting to get hard. Your assortment of Kit Kat bars, and there's the carnage from the wrappers, and then the little pegs that we made earlier, and then the cake that you've chosen. And then I like to use a burlap ribbon because it looks a little bit more like what a pig would be hanging out in, more farmy. And a burlap ribbon also covers up the name brand of the Kit Kat in case that's something that's important, since this happens to be a state fair. And I'm going to go ahead and start working on it. Now the ganache on the side will act as a glue for the Kit Kats. So it's important to get as much of this glue as you can on the side of the cake. And I like to line mine with parchment paper, that way I can just pull that out after the fact and my board will be clean. Here is the cake nearly assembled. I still have the parchment paper that I need to remove, and then the bow I'll make a little prettier. And then here's the pigs in the back, so I've went ahead and added a lot more ganache to the top to look like mud, and then I'm going to add the pigs and it'll be done. Here we go. This is the finished cake with the pigs, and it's summer in here so it's pretty hot. I had to put a little Kit Kat here to hold this guy up who's bathing, and I'm going to put it in the refrigerator to stiffen up.